Hey there, not morning, it's 5 p.m. Never mind. Hi there, how are you? Today on Why You Should, we're gonna do Books, second edition. Is that not a funny joke? Because it's second edition and it's also books coming and I'll shut up. Anyway, since we last met, I was reading, according to the video that I checked, I was reading Best Served Cold. It was in the middle. It's a Joe Abercrombie book. So, I finished that one a long time ago, and it was excellent. And I continued reading Joe Abercrombie novels, the two other novels that were left. So just a short recap in case you're unfamiliar with Joe Abercrombie. He has written the First Law trilogy, which are surprisingly 3 books. And you actually need to say that because sometimes in books, trilogies aren't trilogies, they have 4 books or something like that. So Joe Abercrombie stayed true to the law of having only 3 books in a trilogy, and then he wrote 3 more standalone books in the same universe as his trilogy. The trilogy is called the First Law Trilogy, and that's why we call it the First Law Universe, at least I do, and the 3 other books are in the same universe. They're standalone, however, which means there might be characters that you are familiar with, but you're not entirely forced to read the other ones. I've now completed everything Joe Abercrombie has ever written, I think. At least I don't know if he has any other books. But I've read all 6 books, the trilogy and then the 3 standalones, and I greatly enjoyed them. And if you intend on reading them, I highly recommend that you read them in that order. The reason is because of the last book, and let's get into that in a second. First of all, Best Served Cold. Best Served Cold is the best book that he has written, in my opinion. It is absolutely wonderful. It's a great story. It's also the only one that I feel is completely standalone in the way that you can, if you don't intend to read all 6 books and you want to read just one, read that one. Because it's really great. It won't spoil any of the other ones in any way, and it's really great. Okay? It's absolutely phenomenal. It's a wonderful story that goes through. The ending is pretty obvious. In most cases. I mean, you don't know what happens after the ending, but the way that it's going to end is very obvious because the way that the story is structured. But other than that, it's really interesting and great, and it's written very well. All the characters, the way that they interact with each other, absolutely wonderful book. Best Served Cold. It's good. Go read it. That's one. I finished that, and then I went on to the 2 other books that are standalone. One is called The Heroes, Joe Abercrombie, The Heroes, and the last one is called Red Country. I finished both of them already. It's been many months since we last spoke about books. I read very slowly, so I haven't read a lot of books, but I did read both of these. First was The Heroes. This is also the chronological order. First was The Heroes. The Heroes is not as amazing. It has a really cool premise in the way that it tells you the story of the heroes, which is actually a geographical area. It's actually a hill. It tells you the story of a war that's happening on the heroes alongside during 3 days. So it's actually 3 days and this many freaking pages, which is a lot. And that's pretty cool, but I don't know how well it works because there's a lot of characters here that you never get time to really connect with. And that's why, even though I know most of them, I still didn't feel connected enough to the characters, and I didn't really care as much what was going to happen, so I didn't enjoy The Heroes as much. But it's definitely a nice book, and you definitely, if you've enjoyed Joe Abercrombie so far, if you actually went through the entire First Law trilogy and want more, then you should definitely read it in order. And the last one is Red Country. Now, Red Country, I have to say something. It's a really good book. It's really great. I love it. It closes up a lot of loose ends in the universe with a lot of characters that you are familiar with. But one of the big players here is one of the big players throughout the entire First Law trilogy, and that's why he's one of the big players in the entire universe, and why in that universe of books, I mean, and why you care about him. If you read Red Country without reading the other ones, it doesn't work. You won't give a crap about this standalone book unless you've read through everything. Because this book only stands, at least in my opinion. I obviously haven't done both. I've only read it with the bias, with reading the other ones as well, and I can't unread it and unread the other ones and then read it without having all that knowledge. So I can't do the other one, but I believe that this book will not work unless you've read everything up to that point. With that said, if you come from that perspective, it's really awesome. It gives you a warm feeling at the end because not saying what happened, okay? It ends in a way that you are satisfied with. It's not a good ending or a bad ending. I'm not giving any spoilers, but I'm content with this universe, with everything Joe Abercrombie wrote, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I really, really highly recommend it. If you read only one book from him in this fantasy novels, they're all fantasy novels, right? That's what I like reading. Then you should definitely read Best Served Cold. And if you want to read everything, then read everything. First Law Trilogy, Best Served Cold, The Heroes, and then Red Country. And that's Joe Abercrombie pushing him aside now. So I finished that. I finished all of them. And then I flew away to Gamescom in August. And I didn't have a book. And I had a flight. It's not a long flight. But I want to have a book to read. Damn it. So I went to the terminal. And I went to the bookstore. And I went to the fantasy books in English aisle, which is actually very, very small and very, very... It's not an aisle. It's like just one bookcase with not too many books. And clearly, the ones that are going to be there are probably books that are pretty big. And there are two authors that I've never had the chance to read, but are revered as very, very, very good. And those are Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Some of you are going, oh my god, you've never read them. Oh my god, yes. Now I have. Now I have. The first book I've ever read by Neil Gaiman is called American Gods, which I picked up at the airport and started reading during my stay in Gamescom in Germany. And then I got back, and I kept reading it, and I finished it, and I really enjoyed it. So let's talk a little bit about American Gods. It's pretty damn long, which says a lot. I'll get to that in a second. And it's very interesting. I've never thought that I enjoy this type of book, but it's definitely... I mean, it's American Gods. It talks about America as we know it today. It has phones, and this is Neil Gaiman, by the way. It has phones and cars, and it happens in this day and age. It is fantasy. It does have fantastical, supernatural, crazy stuff happening. It deals with gods, right? But I enjoyed it anyways, and it's written very, very well. It's written from the perspective of just one person, which is as it should be because it's such a short book. It's just one book. And it was really good and refreshing in a way, because I've read so many fantasy novels that are, in times of old with swords and stuff, and this was refreshing. It was interesting and it was very well written. And this one, American Gods, is said by a lot to be his best book, so I started off quite nicely. The other book that is said to be one of Neil Gaiman's best is actually a book he wrote alongside Terry Pratchett, which is called Good Omens. Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. So there's which one is better? If you'll ask me, this one is better. American Gods is better. I enjoyed it more so. So Good Omens is written by both of these crazy, crazy guys, and it is very, very, very quirky and funny, and it's supposed to be like quirky and funny, okay? Just in that sense. And let me tell you, I did not connect to that as much. I just didn't connect to it, me on a personal level. This is all personal, right? So Good Omens is nice, but I didn't love it. It was pretty cute, it was kind of short, and it was nice. And right now, I am reading Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. And this one is kind of... bleh. This is where I'm going to stop reading Neil Gaiman books and look for something else. I'm not sure what yet, but Neverwhere was also highly recommended by the bookstore that I frequent. And this one has an awesome setting, but the actual story is kind of crap. And the characters are kind of meh. The reason for that, I believe, is not because Neil Gaiman is a bad author. I think he's pretty damn good. He proved it with American Gods. I think the problem with this is less than 400 pages of a book, okay? Less than 400 pages. And I'm used to having 15 frickin' books in the same universe. When you have this much lore and this much character development, you have a ton. I mean, look at the difference. This is less than 400 pages. The Heroes is, I don't know, 600, and this is a page. This is a page in this book, and this is a page in this book. So there's a shit ton more words here, and this fell, so I'll have to find it later, probably here. there isn't enough room for me to connect to the characters. And you're telling a wonderful story with a ton of supernatural elements, a whole universe, a whole setting to explore, and it's an awesome setting in Neverwhere, but you don't get a chance to actually explore it. You don't get a chance to get attached to it because it's such a short book. And that's really a shame. I wish that he'd write, like, 3 books in this universe and have time to really wring out a long, good story with strong characters that I care about. And sadly, that story just had a turn where it completely turned me off from the story. It was just like, come on, this sucks. And I kind of don't want to read it anymore. I will finish it because I'm invested in it towards the end, but that's about it. And yeah, that's it. I managed to read 4.5 books in, like, I don't know, months, which means I read very, very slowly. But those are the books that I've managed to read so far. So yeah, books, yeah. Go read them. Books are good, and they're awesome, and they're interesting. The next book I'm actually going to read... Oh, actually, the next book I'm going to read is a technical one about game design. So I'm not going to be back for a long, long while, it seems, in terms of books. But yeah, those are my recommendations. Hopefully this has been helpful in that sense, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.